How's that?
There are kids swimming out there. So that's good. I didn't know your pool was open this late. It's nice.
Yeah,
Winona's closed.
it is.
I think it closes for kids early.
Is Mark running for re-election this year?
Who? Peterson?
How long is the pool phase?
Mayor Peterson?
As far as the season?
Yeah.
I think through August.
Yeah, I guess when the school starts again,
Yeah.
It's one running for mayor, new gal
Season anyway. You know,
named
I
Emily.
was a kid growing up. I know.
Good evening and welcome to the August 7th Wabasha City Council meeting. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have no guest speaker this evening, but I'd like to welcome Mike Flaherty, who is our city attorney out of Winona, and Patty Harity, who will be taking our notes this evening and helping out. At this time, I'd like to invite anyone to address the council under our public comments section. State your name, address.
I'll try this. All right. Hi, I'm Jennifer Walls at 218 3rd Street East in Wabasha. And I am with the Wabasha chapter of the Isaac Walton League. And a letter that was sent to City Council, Port Authority, and letter to the editor regarding dredging such. One of the primary activities of the Wabasha chapter of the Isaac Walton League is to participate during public comment periods on projects affecting local area resources. It has been publicized that a significant project is being proposed for a new barge terminal facility in an area behind the St. Elizabeth's Medical Center referred to as the Carroll site adjacent to a backwater called Hospital Slough. It appears from various accounts that the City of Wabasha and its Port Authority is working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Koner Sand and Gravel to develop this proposal. It has been acknowledged that the Wabasha Port Authority has received $454,876 from Minnesota Department of Transportation of the $625,000 needed to construct the project. In the description of the project, it has been mentioned that the backwater area will have to be dredged and a seawall built, as well as a 5-acre pad constructed and a new road developed. The City of Wabasha has a memorandum of understanding with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Although this has been promoted as a good alternative for the City of Wabasha and its citizens instead of the original proposal, it is not clear how concerns regarding, 1, the environmental sensitivity and the preservation of the ecology of this undeveloped area will be addressed, 2, alternative ideas for handling the dredged material and river management will be given voice, 3, disruption and changes to transportation routes will be handled, and 4, the effects of this project on St. Elizabeth's Medical Center and the neighbors that live in the area. This project has been pushed along with little public input. Is the horse already out of the barn? Is it too late to shut the gate? It would be of great value to the public whose tax dollars are being used for this project to know why they have not been involved in this project and how they will be involved in the decision-making in the future. More specific questions that need to be addressed include, but are not limited to, what environmental review and permitting is required by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the state, county, and city, and how can the public comment? Who will be holding public meetings, open houses, and when will they be scheduled? How is the partnership with a private entity like Koner Sand and Gravel structured, and how will tax dollars be used for this company's benefit? Who will pay the additional monies needed for barge terminal construction and the development of the road from Grant to Highway 61? Who manages the offloading facility, and what are the assurances that they will not accept materials other than dredged sand? Who decides where the sand will go, and who will ensure that dredge disposal meets local and state regulations and goes through proper regulatory processes? Does this plan require the pits in Lake City? If yes, have Lake City residents discussed this? Will anything be done to reduce the amount of sand coming into the Mississippi? It is requested by this citizen group that the City of Wabasha schedule a public meeting at which city officials share information and citizens can get answers to these important questions. Thank you. From the Wabasha chapter of the Isaac Walton League.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council during Public comments. Patty, note that all council members are here with the exception of Schmidt and Moyer. Council members, at this time I'll ask for any changes or additions to the agenda.
Yeah, I'd like to make an addition. I'd like to respond to this letter because I'm on one of the committees and so is Jeff, and we're working with Chad, who's not here tonight. He'd be the most appropriate person, but he's not here. And just give a brief response to that, and if possible, I'd like to do that as item 4.1.
So adding to general business item 4.
Yeah, it's not general business. Because
It's what?
I'm moving it up. I'd like to see it moved up because we had the comment, and we could probably address it now. It'd be relevant.
I don't see it on the agenda.
It would be right now. That's my suggestion.
So you want to make it 1?
Well, we're on step 4, right? So I'm talking 4.1.
Okay, you would,
Make an addition to the agenda.
You'd like to make an addition to the agenda, 4.1, so it'd be the next thing that we would do.
4.1 is still in the consent agenda.
No,
No.
it's right now. I don't know where your numbers are. I'm using the numbers I got.
4 is changes and additions to the agenda. He wants to add it.
We'll add it,
Right now.
we'll add it to general business, Craig.
Okay.
And we'll add it as, we'll put it number 1 in general business.
Okay.
Any other changes or additions?
There's an error in the July 3rd minutes. Do we deal that when we talk about the consent agenda?
Sure, when we get to consent agenda, Jeff? Other changes or additions? If not, a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Okay, Mayor's presentation, just a couple of things. We had the 40th Riverboat Days over the past weekend and a very successful time, and congratulations to 2018 Queen Mia Fries and to first attendant Megan Springer. And Mia and Megan, thank you very, very much for stepping forward and representing Wabasha during the next year. I attended a Southeast Minnesota League of Communities meeting on July 31st in Kellogg, and there are 2 notes I'd like to make. Tony Johnson was on a panel talking about ash borer and did a wonderful job, he along with 6 or 7 others, and it was very, very well received. And the other part of that, Flags for Valor was a big hit this year, thanks to Jim Knoll, but I can assure you that there were hundreds of other hands involved in that, both in preparing the flags to be put up and taking down and packing. And tonight is National Night Out. If you were at the Justice Center, we have our finest, our police, our county sheriff's department, and fire department, fire trucks over there. So I think it's over now. It ran till 7, but I'll bet if there's an extra dilly bar, they won't take it home. Oh, you get to take it, Joe. Oh, okay. All right. Committee reports. Craig, let's start with you tonight.
The city council, or the planning commission, met on July 10th, I think it was, and wrapped up a few items concerning the planning or the zoning ordinance. There may be a public hearing coming up, and I guess I didn't check the notices, but do you know if there's a public hearing coming up, Patty?
For the,
Planning commission?
I don't know.
There's to meet next Tuesday on the what's today, the 8th, that'd be the 8th? No, today's the 7th, so it'd be the 14th.
14th, yeah.
And they'll meet at 6 o'clock. There could be a public hearing.
Not on the 14th
You're right.
election, so it had to be moved. I'm not sure.
And I'm just trying to find that out when that meeting was moved to. We'll get back to you.
That it?
Yeah.
Any questions? Brian?
We had utilities today. Pretty much business as usual. We did approve one part of our 2019 street and utility project, which the other part of it will be on our agenda this evening.
Okay.
That's all.
Questions? John?
Port Authority, met on the 17th of July. In general business, we had a presentation from the Wabasha Kellogg Chamber of Commerce with respect to the buildings on Second Street, how they might like to use them in future. We talked about that. We didn't take any action on that. We also talked about the feasibility of a feasibility study for options for a hotel in the area, since the last one is no longer going to be in our open space down by the river. There's still a possibility of that. We have some interest from certain parties. So that was discussed. Discussed briefly the marina lease extension, which we have on our agenda tonight. And then also we met last night and did a tour of a couple properties owned by an individual who's going to be putting a request into the Port Authority this month. It'll be, must be the 21st then, right?
2 weeks from tonight.
2 weeks from tonight, so. And it was good, it was fruitful. I'm glad that those who attended did, so thank you very much for doing that. That's about it.
Thank you, John. Jeff, anything to
No.
question or add? All right. Thank you. Administrator's report, not, do you have anything,
I got nothing.
Patty? Okay, consent agenda, and we are going to have I'm sorry, Tony, you were the first one on my mind also.
Good evening, everyone.
And you did a nice job in Kellogg.
I learned just as much as I gave out, so I mean, that's.
Oh, yeah.
And having it that close, you know, didn't have to go to Mankato or Brainerd or went to Kellogg. Pretty cool. We did not have a park board meeting. Street commission met today. We talked about, as Brian had mentioned, the mill and overlay project on the street side, where the money's gonna come from, what the planning stages is and the schedule. So Brian went through that with us, went through the maps and the street survey, and we got that dialed in and recommended forward that to city council for approval tonight. Next one, we had an alley that needs some work between Franklin and Jefferson. It's a small project. It's blacktop. It's starting to deteriorate, so we want to get some more blacktop on there, get it fixed before it's a real steep alley, and it ain't gonna take much for it to start getting really bad. We did have another issue over on the east side of town between 9th and 10th Street. It was a grass alley that it's not a developed alley, it's a grass alley, and it was used by a cement truck, and a loader got stuck, and the neighbors aren't happy, and it needs to be fixed, and so I need to contact our city attorney, most likely tomorrow, and ask him what our steps are, as getting all the parties involved, getting them to fix the alley the way it should be. So, other than that, that was it.
Questions of Tony? Thank you, Tony. Okay, consent agenda this evening. The items are, number one, to approve the July 3rd regular minutes and June 21st special meeting minutes. Resolution certifying unpaid utilities to taxes on parcel R27.00645.00, and resolutions authorizing Wabasha County to sell parcel R27.00 or .00645.00 at public auction and reinstating assessments. And the fourth is to approve warrants. Patty has some changes to note.
To the minutes. So, we had somebody new do the minutes, and there's a few corrections that need to be made. First of all, for the, June 21st, 2018 minutes, it states that it's was a regular meeting, but that was a special meeting, so I need to make that correction. And then on the Tuesday, July 3rd, 2018, under consent agenda number 9, warrants, we need to list the warrants that were approved. So if, I'm not gonna read all the warrants that were approved, if we can just refer back to the list from that meeting.
From July.
Yeah, from July. I'll list
That
the
meeting
warrants.
wasn't June 21st, was it? It was,
No, it was July 3rd.
It was July, July 3rd. So the special meeting was June.
but not the 21st.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it was the 21st.
Then that was a Thursday,
July
the
3rd.
21st, not the Tuesday.
It was, yeah, that was a Thursday, so I need to make that correction as well. Okay. So then, also on the July 3rd, under consent agenda item 10.6, the motion is, the count is wrong, it should be 3-2 with Sula and Schmidt voting no.
Okay.
And it also says Director Johnson. I'd like to change that to Public Works Director Johnson, under the third paragraph, 10.6.
All right.
And then also on 10.7, on the motion, the count should be 4-1 with the mayor voting no. So those are my corrections.
Okay, this is the first go-around for the new company that is going to do the minutes that we voted on, I think, last meeting. So there'll probably be a little learning curve and something, we'll work through. So thank you, Patty.
Yep.
I'll move to approve with the changes if no one else has any corrections.
Second.
There's been a motion to approve and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, passed unanimously. All right, no public hearing this evening, general business, 2019 proposed street utility project, and Brian, I believe you're gonna help us out on that.
We're gonna do,
No, you added 10.1.
Okay, we did add 10 point.
Okay, 10.1,
Or she left.
she had to go, that's why I kinda wanted to move it up, but I'll just bring it for anybody else that's interested. The city is working with the Corps of Engineers, and it's a committee made up of Jeff Sulla, myself, Chad Springer, and other people that we may need at that. Also, we have Dan Marks from our attorney's office that has been supplying a lot of good information. And we've been working on this since sometime, well, maybe early winter. We're trying to find another place to put this sand, and we're trying to work with the Corps, and the Koner Sand and Gravel Company has come forward and said they're willing to work with us on that. So we're having discussions with them. No plans have been made of any kind. There have been ideas tossed out, but no plans of any sort. Mainly, we're waiting on the Corps, because the Corps of Engineers is crucial to this, and they've got, they have to decide what they're willing to do. It's been a long federal process that I guess only 3 or 4 different places in the U.S. have ever done this. So it's a difficult or an unusual thing to do, and that unusuality makes it difficult to get answers out of the Corps, and they're having trouble getting answers. The St. Paul District, they have to go to Washington. So they originally said they would come out with the second draft of the draft of the Dredge Material Management Plan, the DMMP. They said they would come out with that sometime in June of 2018, and we're now in August. So we're still waiting on them. Some of the questions that were asked about the environmental problems and things like that, those are the responsibility of the Corps to resolve many of those problems. And until we have a plan, until we know what we're doing, what we're building, if anything, we don't know what the environmental problems, questions will be that have to be answered. So we're waiting on that. The partnership that we have with Conner Sand and Gravel has yet to be decided how that's going. It even has to be decided whether it's going to be Conner Sand and Gravel. So there are many, many questions out there to deal with. And we could have a public hearing, and we would be saying pretty much, I think what I'm saying now is we don't know. And so that's probably one of the reasons that we haven't had a public hearing. Maybe we could issue a statement that could be published in the newspaper and maybe put on the website that would say this for people that have questions. But for the most part, we're working on it. We're trying to come up with an alternative to putting the sand in the Drysdale farm or on the Fitzgerald property, although the colonel has said he doesn't want to put it on the Fitzgerald property. But they need an alternative for a place to put the sand, and we're trying to, and there are many different options for that. And that requires a lot of time to assess those options and to figure out who's going to pay for it and how that's going to work. So if anybody's wondering what's happening, that's what's happening, is we are working on it. And there are no easy answers right now, and it's complicated. And as soon as we have answers, I think we'll make those available.
Greg, when was your last meeting?
Last
2
week,
weeks
I
ago,
believe.
or last week? Yeah. And before that, we met 2 weeks. We're putting together a letter to send to the Corps to try and give them some ideas as how this might work.
And when is your next meeting?
I don't know that we have one scheduled. We're probably going to wait. We've been communicating with the project engineer by the name of Bob Edstrom, and it'll probably be his call as to when the next meeting will be.
Craig, so the Corps is going to put another proposed dredge plan out,
That's right.
and there will be a public comment period with that,
That's right.
just as there was with the last one. The reason why we've gotten to this point is because of the public comment period from the first one.
Right.
And so this is an alternative to the Drysdale Fitzgerald proposal that they had on the table before. So the public's gonna get to review the entire plan as they did the first one in sometime probably this summer, early fall, right? We would assume.
That's correct, yeah. There'll be the same process.
Same process.
Same open process, and there'll be public review at that point when they
Right.
come out with it.
Now, the memorandum of understanding is simply for the fact that now we're theoretically on the same page, non-binding, but on the same page in spirit as the Army Corps is how we're gonna do this project. So that gives the Army Corps kind of the ability to start some of these environmental studies and different things that will need to occur, you know, to make this happen, or if it can happen, right?
Right.
Okay, so it's all up in the air, and there's really nothing that's official at this point.
Yes, the memorandum of understanding, I can't recall what the exact wording is, but it's rather loose.
It is.
And open.
And that's a,
And that's for that purpose, is we don't have the answers, but we want to say that we're willing to work with the Corps if they're willing to work with us. I
right.
think
The
basically
goal
that's
is to not have it come through town. The goal is to try to get it in a controlled and setting environment.
Right.
So I would speak to the one thing on this letter, and that was the award that we got from the DOT, Department of Transportation, for $454,000. That request, as part of, it's a grant was coming to a close, and so we had an option of either applying for it or not getting it at all. So we went ahead and applied for it, and we did that through the Port Authority. And so we were awarded that. So that's just sitting there. It's not, there's nothing more to it than that.
And that's an important point, that the Port Authority is the lead agency for the city on this. And Jeff and I are sitting in there at the behest of the port, I suppose. Even
Yes,
we're not
absolutely.
port members.
Yeah.
But, so that's where we're kind of at.
Yep.
The memorandum of understanding is a public document, so anyone who would interested in that who hasn't seen it can certainly contact City Hall to get a copy. Any other comments on that? When I read the letter, I'm wondering, does the public or whoever wrote this letter, it's not signed and there's no identification at all on the envelope, so I don't know when it got here. But is this group asking to be involved in the development of the plan, Craig?
I don't believe so. I've been a member of Ike's for 30 years. Basically, Ike's are a group of hunters and fisher people. But they are concerned with conservation, as it used to be called, and now it's called environmental things. And they had these same questions. They just didn't know what was going on and wondered what was going on. I don't think they don't want to be involved, but they want to be informed.
What's the best way of doing that, Craig?
You know, that's a good question. And so a public hearing might be an involved process where we stand up here for 10, 15 minutes and say we don't know anything, or we could wait till we do know something. But maybe perhaps a press release saying kind of what we summed up here tonight, and that could be put on the website as well for those that don't buy the newspaper.
It's a good idea.
We're not trying to hide anything. We're just trying to say
I don't think there's
we don't have anything. We don't have anything to say.
I don't think there's anything to hide.
I mean, we can have discussions and toss ideas out, but anybody can do that, and nothing is concrete yet.
All right, but we've been alerted. And we will pay attention to the letter and do what we can. Craig, you said that you've been a member of that group. Perhaps you can identify some leadership in that group, and
Jen Walls, who addressed us,
we
is
can
the
keep them
current
in the
president.
loop at least.
So if we want to address anything back to them, I would use her address and her as the contact.
Okay, thanks for your work on that. Now let's go to 1.1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I included some information in your packet related to this project. If you recall, I think it was last year in the spring, we had a workshop where we kind of looked at your infrastructure needs as a city as a whole and went through a bunch of needs and how you would approach your infrastructure needs. And one of the things we talked about at that workshop was the idea that you needed to keep up with your street condition, regardless of the condition of the utilities underneath the streets. And so following that process and that idea that we talked about last year, the next project on the docket would be to continue with your mill and overlay street program, similar to the projects you did in 2014 and in 2016. 2014 on the west side of town, and 2016 kind of in the area adjacent to downtown. So working with Tony, we updated the citywide street ratings and looked at which streets had fallen to a condition where they would need a mill and overlay to maintain good condition. Tony's been pursuing other street maintenance measures every year, doing crack sealing and seal coating as preventative maintenance. This mill and overlay is another step that you do to help maintain your street condition. So based on the updated street condition rating, we worked with Tony to identify the streets that would need mill and overlay next, and that's the map that you have in your packet. The orange streets that are identified on the map are streets that would receive the mill and overlay treatment. Again, similar to what we did on the 2014 and 16 project. If there's asphalt curb along these streets, we would replace that asphalt curb, but in general, these streets would receive a 2-inch overlay, new pavement. The blue identified streets would have a little bit more extensive treatment where we would grind up the asphalt and then place new asphalt over the top of that. They've deteriorated a little bit more than the other streets and require a little more treatment. So the map lays out the various areas, various streets that would be included in the 2019 project, the cost estimate that was included. There are 2 sections to this. Kind of the first part of the table is the mill and overlay streets. Total project costs of about $1.1 million. There's this little table near the bottom. That's the one of the projects that Brian talked about. The Utility Commission looked at earlier today, doing some sewer lining. So that would also be pursued next year, and the Utility Commission approved moving forward earlier today. So, as with the 2014 and 2016 projects, and per your assessment policy, the mill and overlay project would be assessed to the benefiting properties adjacent per your policy. So we laid out a project schedule. Should you choose to proceed forward with the project, these are the necessary steps that we would go through to follow the Chapter 429 assessment process for the project. The first step is tonight, where you would order the preparation of the feasibility report. I prepared a work order in your packet for us to proceed forward with that preliminary work and preparing the feasibility report, as well as doing some preliminary design, topographic and boundary survey that's necessary to do that work. So that would be the first step in the process, and we would come back to you in October to present that preliminary engineering report to you that would further detail the project scope and costs, and council at that time could take action if you so choose to order a hearing on the project, which would be the next step in the process, and so on and so forth as the schedule dictates. The work order is for $65,000 to do the topographic and boundary survey and the preliminary engineering work necessary to develop the feasibility report for the project. So
Could
that's
I
what
ask,
Yes.
did you use a pavement management system to select these particular segments?
We did, yep. So I think we've done ratings on the streets 3 times now.
Mm-hmm.
I think we first did it in 2015 or 16. We used the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, the PACER rating system, which is a pretty simple 1 through 10 scale, and basically identifies those streets that are deteriorated to the point where you would want to reconstruct them, the streets that are a good candidate for mill and overlay like this, and then those streets where you should focus on crack sealing and seal coating. So those streets that require crack sealing and seal coating, Tony's been taking care of as a part of that regular program. And the mill and overlay streets are the ones we've identified here and the ones you've previously done.
And I see you have some costs plugged in. Have you selected what overlay depth you're going to use on these, or is that something you're going to work on somewhere?
For the preliminary costs, we've assumed a 2-inch overlay on the residential streets. Some of the more commercial streets, for example, we have the 8th Street in Allegheny L-shaped leg, basically by the Dollar General. That one, we're actually looking at raising the grade of that road a bit because it sits down below flood elevation. So that one we're actually going to reclaim, raise the road up, and we'll evaluate what pavement section is necessary based on the truck traffic there. The other one that might receive might receive something more than 2 inches is the west end of 10th Street by the Public Works Building. That receives a lot of traffic from the concrete plant and the industrial park area there. So some of these might have some more additional pavement thickness beyond what a residential street would have, but that's the type of thing we'll evaluate in the preliminary engineering report.
I
Brian,
noticed-
there's a,
Go ahead.
excuse me.
I was just saying, I noticed that some of the potholes and out there seem quite deep, and so I was wondering how deep you had to go to be able to overlay that.
Well, the other thing that we include in the costs here too, and we did this on the 2014 and the 2016 project, is we do include some full depth patching quantity in the project. So we will identify some where we may have to do some additional work to fix some areas that have deteriorated past the point where you mill and overlay them. So we account for that in the bid and make sure that we properly address those areas. So.
Good.
If I read the map right, there's some activity to be done on the street that goes by the cemetery. What's that?
Yep, Angelique and
Rustic Lane?
Rustic Lane.
And what?
Rustic Lane and Angelique Avenue.
How old is that project on Rustic Lane? How old is that? Tony, do you know?
You mean when was it last done?
Yeah.
It's before my time.
Okay.
Been here 15, 16.
Been a while, okay.
Yeah.
Questions?
Make a
Then we
motion
need-
to approve the work order.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
John, this is not our first rodeo on a street project, is it?
No.
Second reading of the truck route addition. Staff would like to add a section of Allegheny where it intersects 8th and 8th to State Highway 60. Trucks already use this for delivery to Super Value, Dollar General, so it would fit our truck route stipulations. It would also open up the possibility for applying for state funds, this 2-block section of street in the near future. A motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Questions?
The planning commission also looked at this and thought it was a wise use of extending the truck parking, or the truck routes.
Yeah. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I oppose, same sign, did pass unanimously. Very good. Criminal Justice Center office space lease with the Wabasha Police Department. The rent's going up a bit. Joe, is that basically the same area?
Yeah, I think they just, wanted to kind of leave an open-ended, contract at 2% a year. And then the only change, was the, $1,000 added. And that's, that we have access to all their IT to take care of our computers and our in-squad computers and things like that, so.
That looked like the added value was the IT.
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to approve the contract as presented?
So move.
Second.
Questions? Clarification? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Schedule a 2019 workshop, if you all have your calendars, and it was recommended for the 27th or 28th of August.
23rd.
Pardon me?
Staff is suggesting 23rd or an alternate of the 27th
Oh,
or 28th.
23rd, so that's your first choice? Thank you, Patty.
What time are you talking?
Oh, Chad didn't say what time. Usually it's in the afternoon, isn't it?
I think, Brian, it's usually around 1 o'clock.
I don't remember, doing an
2:30.
afternoon one last year.
I think
Or
it was
maybe I
like
did come
4
back at like 3.
Yeah,
I thought it was about 4 last year.
Yeah,
4 works.
Mid-afternoon or
4 would
something.
work great for me.
I could come back early and do 4. Either day is open right now.
Okay. Well, let's look at the 23rd. That's Thursday.
It was at the library last year, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Okay, Thursday at 4 o'clock, the 23rd.
At the library or at the Eagle Center?
My vote would be Eagle Center.
My vote would be the Eagle Center. I mean, we do invite,
What time does the Eagle
Oh.
Center close or whatever, do we know?
pardon me?
What time does the Eagle Center close or does it matter?
Eagle Center closes at 5, but I think we could get some help and some flexibility there. All right, so why don't we schedule it for the 23rd at 4 o'clock at the Eagle Center? And all of the department heads are invited, and anyone else who wants to attend, in addition to the council. Marina lease extension. I'm going to ask for help on this one from John and Jeff, because I'm not sure I understand what's going on here.
So what we have before us is an extension on the franchise agreement, or kind of a placeholder until we get the franchise agreement back up and running or current with the operator of the marina. So this is essentially a placeholder, or in good faith, they're saying they'll give us $10,000 until such time that we come to terms with the agreement, the new franchise agreement going forward. The 10,000 is not the total payment for the first year, but it would be part payment for the first year. So whatever the first payment would be for the first year, that payment would be less than $10,000.
And is the first year April 15th, 2018 to 2019?
Correct.
And so far this year, we've received no
Correct.
cash.
Correct. As far as I know.
Correct.
Yep.
So, assuming that we continue the 43,000 lease, that'll be retroactive to
Right.
April 15th,
April 15th
and this 10,000 will be applied.
to that.
And, okay, John, this is to the end of the year, but the second payment really should be made October 15th.
It should be. I think really the goal behind this was that it gave myself and Jeff and Chad and the marina owners time to get this done. We can set whatever date we want. We don't have to do this either. They can simply be, a tenant in holding. Is that the right term?
Well, mayor and council, no, they're not technically I think the correct term is a holdover tenant, but
Holdover, yeah.
the way I understand it is, there's an anticipation there'll be another long-term lease signed.
Right.
And there's been a negotiation that I haven't been party to, but I drafted this, and essentially we would just agree to extend this till December 31st for $10,000. Anything else will be negotiated separately, but there's an anticipation that there will be a new lease that somehow involves that $10,000,
Right.
is my understanding.
Yep.
So, since with the contract expired and the lease expired, is the period going forward, is that assumed to be under the same rates as the existing contract?
I'm not sure I understand the rate part of that question, but the way it's drafted is it's retroactive to the expiration date.
Well, they were paying 43.7.
Right.
So are they on the hook for 43.7 from April 2018 to April 2019?
No, they're not on the hook for anything now. So this is just an extension from retroactive to April 2018 until the end of the year, December 31st.
Why are we choosing $10,000, I'm wondering? That's a pretty low amount if that's about 2/3 of the year. I would think 2/3 of 43,000 would be 28 or something.
I didn't negotiate it.
I have a feeling what we were thinking of doing was that this $10,000 would kind of get us, we're kind of looking at hopefully having the lease agreement done by what we're talking, it's like September or something. So realistically, they're May, June, July, August, they're 3 or 4 months technically behind on the payments. 10,000 kind of gets us to maybe September with a similar cost of what the original lease was. And I think, like I said, I think our goal is gonna be to try to have this wrapped up in September. I mean, that's what we were just talking the other day, so.
Yeah, and I remember we had discussions like that, or there were discussions in Port Authority when I was just a listener. And that seemed okay at the time, but when I read this extension of the franchise agreement, that now goes up to December 31st. So they're paying $10,000 for 2/3 year. That seems a little low.
What'd your gut tell you in the meeting about if they want to get something done?
They want to get something.
Feels like
done.
it's going to happen?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Mike, and you two have been working on it, so I respect that.
Yeah. And I know it's hard work, and I know you guys have put in a lot of hours.
Yeah. But why are we not asking for $21,250 for the extension, the hold money, or whatever you want to call it, from April to October? Why are we dropping down to 10? Why are we not going for $21,250?
Didn't seem a reasonable number.
I don't get that, because
Just,
the lease,
that's the answer.
the lease was $21,250 every 6 months, and now it looks like you got $10,000 for about 7 months.
Well, realistically, we want this wrapped up by, say, the middle of September. So it's really not, this isn't really gonna, I wouldn't expect this to be in effect for the whole 6 months. Because if we go into the final lease, September 15th, then that would be wrapped into it, the date. But that would be the goal.
Okay, this extension continues to terms and conditions of the previous lease, so I'm assuming, are you thinking $40,000 a year for the first 5 years and then an acceleration?
It was 43.7.
It's 43.7
Well, on the original lease, Craig, it was 40 for the first 5 years.
for the first
And
5.
then it
And then
went
the
up.
last 5, it was 43.7.
Right, so are we gonna do that again, 40 for the first 5, and then 40?
You know, I don't know.
Why would we go backwards? There's been cost of living increases, there's CPA cost,
Some of that,
consumer price index.
to be honest with you, I can't answer those questions right now. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
John, and I'm not gonna beat on that anymore, but that's my feeling, is that we really should be picking up 21,000 or 20,000 from April 15th to October 15th. And then the other 20,000 should come in, if we're gonna keep the same terms of the previous lease. Second question I've got, it says, the appointed subgroup continues to work toward the extension continues terms. The new agreement will be full payment, okay. But it also somewhere indicates that you've checked with Elma, Red Wing, Lake City, And how did you do that? Did you get documentation?
Yes,
I
Chad,
actually got, yeah, I
Chad
actually,
actually got copies of lease agreements from Alma, Trempealeau, Winona, Red Wing, Pepin, La Crosse. And it's, you know, and I've gone through it, and I think John's probably read through it, and this stuff is all over the place as far as what they charge. I mean, no one is charging anybody near $41,000 a year to lease a marina.
Are you comparing apples to apples?
Well, like
That's
I
the
said,
hard
that's the
part.
hard part. I mean, we should be charging a premium here because of our location. That's my feeling. But like most of these, the annual leases are running between $7,000 and $10,000. But then they all have other options, like some places are charging a cut in the slip rental. So if the marina's full, then the city's getting a 5% of every boat slip that's, other ones are charging 4 cents, getting 4 cents a gallon for every gallon of gas they fuel, or
Okay.
fuel they sell.
Or other ones are
Yeah.
saying you've got what's your capital improvement plan?
Yeah, other ones are
Show us.
requiring a capital improvement plan every 5 years from the leasee. So it's like.
So it's not apples to apples.
It's
no.
not, so, and that's why I'm hesitant to say anything more than where we're at with this franchise, with this extension right now. This
Yeah.
just keeps us, it's a placeholder. And, I mean,
But what happens on January 1st?
we don't know yet.
January
Well,
1st,
that-
we will have something.
We'll have something, I
Yeah.
don't know what it is, but
I would be more comfortable if we shorten this agreement. I don't like running up to December 31st. For one thing, everything takes place at that time of year, and the other thing is they're taking it costs them, they get 2/3 of the year for $10,000. They don't have to agree to pay anymore.
well, you know, I guess the statement is if they don't agree, then maybe they're not gonna be there next year,
They won't be there,
you know?
yeah,
So that's, as I said,
they
we
owe us-
can do whatever we want with this, we don't even have to do this,
I think they owe us
you know?
by they owe us $28,000 for this year. If they really wanted to renegotiate that contract at a lower rate, they should have been a little more aggressive, or at least notify us about that.
Well, it is kind of interesting to read the actual lease agreement, that it's their
It is the
responsibility.
franchisee, it's
The
not us, but-
franchisee is responsible to initiate negotiations with the city when the lease comes up. As far as I know, they never did that.
And let's assume they didn't. So you own a building, we won't get into that. If they don't come to us, I would think that we brought this up in February. You two were appointed to a subcommittee in February. Today is the 7th of August. Nothing's really done. I hope that we can find out why nothing was done during that time. And that's really never been clarified or addressed.
Well, here's where we're at right now. We have this in front of us. The next meeting we have is this coming Friday. I mean, we can do what we want with this. We can table it. We can modify the dates. You know, whatever you'd like to do with it. This is where we're at with it as a committee that we're recommending.
How much discussion did you have with them about the amount? Was there back and forth, or, you know, how did the 10 come about?
Little back and forth. Just, you know, do 10. We'll start somewhere.
Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to do is get the feel, is it 10 or nothing? You know, are they gonna?
Well, I don't know. And again, I'm not gonna try to
Sure.
negotiate that with us here, not them. You know,
Yeah,
Well, who is going to negotiate it
well, we will, but certainly not here tonight.
tonight?
We're not we need all parties present.
No, fair is fair. So,
But if we want to push this along, I think we should shorten this up, August 31st would be the 10,000, the limit goes to August 31st.
that's not gonna happen.
That's not going to happen.
And what
No,
good would
so,
that
like I
do?
said, the reality
You
is
don't have
that,
time to renegotiate from August 31st to April in this 3-week period.
I won't. I'll hopefully be available this Friday,
What would,
you know.
if we wanted to shorten it, what would be a realistic date?
See, if this was the 7th, could try October. 2 months, 60 days,
September 30th.
yeah.
And that way we get, that's not quite, then they pay 10,000 and they get May, June, July, August. They get September, they get 5.5 months. It's a thought.
Up to you guys.
I think we should put a hard deadline,
Yeah, that's fine.
that's,
So you want to amend the date to September 31?
What do you think, Mr. Mayor?
To have the 9/31 to have the lease in place?
the new lease in place,
Yeah,
yes.
it'd be 10/1, the new lease.
Pardon me?
The new lease would be, the new lease going from 10/1/2018 to.
No, we don't want that.
No, so it'd be on 10/1,
Okay,
we would have an agreement that actually spans back
From April
From April
15th for the
15th.
next
Right.
term of the lease, next
April,
5
the
years.
next term of the lease, whatever that might be.
all right. Can
Just
we-
as, just as.
With payments due April 15th, and here would be September, and then October 15th. So assuming it's a $40,000 lease, we'd want $20,000 in September, $20,000 again in October 15th.
Well, and we'll, as part of this committee, we'll negotiate and bring that to council
Yeah,
Yeah,
as to what that's gonna be,
all those,
what we recommend.
yeah, because we can't approve it, we gotta,
Yeah, we
we'll
have no-
recommend that this is
Yeah,
what we've kind of
Exactly,
agreed
we'll
to,
bring it to,
bring it to council and.
so Mr. Flaherty, could we do that? Would we change the
Gotta
dates?
act
in
on
this?
tonight's,
Yeah, of course, Mayor and Council, Mayor and Council, just be clear as to what you're amending in the extension. If it's the date, say the date. If it's a term, say the term, and you can just, because ultimately, nobody's signed this yet. So all you're really doing is, motioning to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the document and to enter into the contract. So if you make that motion now, it's as is, so you can go and mark it up essentially. If it's going to be more detailed than just a few minor terms, that might be difficult, like with the minutes today. I mean, that's a lot of that's a lot of amendments.
Well, what it says here in your next to last paragraph, your last
now
whereas.
therefore, yeah.
Parkside's willing to pay the city, and City is willing to accept a payment for the extension of $10,000, which shall be payable no later than 30 days after the execution of this extension agreement. So if we execute it
tonight.
Right.
tonight, they would owe us $10,000 within 30 days, and then,
September 6th.
Well, from the time they sign it, all
okay,
parties
so
have to sign
all
it.
parties sign it.
Assuming they sign it tomorrow, they'd have 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
To pay, to actually pay.
And then the new agreement will come forward, and we'll have 30 days, again, after the execution of the new agreement.
That was arbitrarily chose that. I mean, part of the reason I chose that when
The
I
30
drafted
days, you
it
mean?
was the 30 days, right, for payment. You could have the money due and payable the day they sign it. The reason I picked that is it was already delinquent by several months.
Yeah.
So it was easiest and there was no negotiated terms to my knowledge.
So, Counselor, we do have to or do not have to act on this agenda item tonight?
Well, I mean, what you could do, I mean, I'm just listening to the conversation. It sounds like there's questions about it. You could bring it back in September, 1 month from now, and perhaps you'd have the negotiated agreement. Then you wouldn't have to do an extension. Is that,
Well, you're kind of saying that's not going to happen. You don't have the time to do that. It's my understanding is what you said.
Well, the end, yeah, I'm suggesting the end of September.
Yeah.
I mean, we might get it done in 2 meetings, I don't know, but I can't see that happening, and Jeff and I both only have so many days available to meet, as do they, I'm sure, so it's a matter of getting everybody at the table at the same time and everything. So to be fair to that, just the schedules,
I'd rather see that the city gets some money now, and that we schedule, and then on September 30th, their lease expires, and maybe lights a fire under them to try and come forward and
Well,
come up with an agreement.
I'll make a motion to enter into this franchise agreement with the amendment of, in the now therefore paragraph, changing April 15th, changing December 31, 2018 to September 31, 2018.
There's 30 days.
September
30.
30th.
Yeah. That's my motion.
So can I make a comment?
We gotta change it in the whereas.
Yeah, there's a couple different
There's a
spots.
couple, that's what I was gonna say.
You can
Yeah.
just,
Change all the December
Change.
31
Yeah.
to September 30.
I was gonna suggest the same, so I'll second.
but keeping the, just so I'm clear, keeping the amount the same.
Same.
We have a motion and a second. Other questions or discussion? Roll
Just-
call?
Just to
Excuse me.
just to
Discussion.
clarify,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay, so the 10,000, it's not like we're losing the contracted money once it's negotiated, because it's retroactive.
Exactly.
So whether we get 10 or 20, in the end, we're getting the same amount. So we're not taking less, it's a placeholder.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, I think the way it's worded, it's 10,000 period.
Right.
And
Yeah, so that's more of an analysis question of the contract. Basically, it's an extension for a period of time for that amount of money. The city administrator wanted me to draft it where it was this language where they would get a credit for the 10,000 against whatever future amounts negotiated might be. And the reality is, that's duplicative. I mean, essentially, you can negotiate that in the new contract.
Right.
You know, you're just gonna get X dollars for X period of time, period. Whatever else you negotiate in the future is what you negotiate in the future. So, for instance, you could negotiate a higher lease fee or a franchise fee for the first year to make up for the
Okay,
fact that it's less than 50, it's about 50% is what the mayor is saying, I think.
I understand.
Yeah,
So as part of the new contract, you can say, you gotta pay us back for
right. But that's,
what we didn't get the last year.
that's to be negotiated in
Right,
the
right.
future.
Got
They
it.
could just say, no, we're not doing that.
Right.
And I think that's what
Yeah.
Councilor Falcon was saying, but that's up for negotiation. I mean, I did not negotiate this, so I don't know what they've promised to do or.
Okay, I get it.
So my understanding then is, I can vote for this, and with the end that we're gonna try and recover more, once we get to 10,000, we'll try and recover the full amount that we were really due for this year.
That's the intent and
That's the-
expectation.
That's the intent and expectation.
Yeah, there's no
Can we
no
get that in
guarantee
the
on that
minutes?
one.
Mike, could you clarify why is this a franchise versus just a ground lease, or, I mean, is
It's a
there
great
some?
question. So when we renegotiated, I'm gonna look at that. That's what your prior
Yeah,
attorney
because it
did.
doesn't seem to make any sense.
It doesn't seem to make sense as a franchise to me, because it's not a utility, and that's generally franchise agreements or utility agreements generally. In your code, it lists this as a franchise, but I have to look at that issue. I didn't think we were gonna redraft it that quickly, and essentially, this was presented to me as an extension of a prior agreement, so that's what we're doing, but I agree with that. Conceptually, to me, it's not a franchise, but maybe it is. I don't know that today, though.
Okay, so on 415, if we just renewed the lease as the old one, the first 5 years, they get it for 40,000. So 20,000 would have been due April 15th of 2018. Nothing has been paid. Now we're gonna get out here till 9/30 and maybe get 10.
No, you will get 10, right? But they agreed to pay 10, or hopefully they're gonna agree to pay the 10.
Have they agreed to it?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying, we have to sign it, and then you have to
Yeah,
present
but
it. to
in
them.
your negotiation, have they agreed to it? Or aren't you,
Well, to
can't say
date,
it?
yes, I mean, they have.
Okay, so we'll get 10 on 9/30.
No, we'll get 10
30 days from.
shortly.
Well,
And that's
Next
within
week.
30 days, so they could pay it the next day. So you-
Yeah.
You can change that too, you can make that, pay within 2 weeks or whatever.
We'll get 10. And then, if the old lease is there, John, then on 11/15, we're looking at picking up another 20K.
Well,
30,
actually,
be 33.
the goal would be
Yeah.
that the first year then would be, which is this 2018 year, 2018-19 year, that it would be, that payment would be 30,000.
Well, I'm hoping, Craig, that the first 20,000 would be paid by, November 15th, October 30th, October 15th, April and October 15th.
Well, you can hope all you want. Well, we got is the contract says, what we're saying here tonight is the contract say 10,000 by 9/30, September 30th.
And really nothing after that.
That's their, yeah, that will be negotiated by our team. And we'll either agree to it or we won't agree to it. At that point.
Yep.
Further? Roll.
Malcolm,
I'm in favor of it. Yes.
Friedmeier,
Sure what the
Yes.
question was.
Sula,
Yes.
Woodley,
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
No. Okay. And that passes 4-1. I believe that takes care of the general business items. Donations we have tonight. For the library, in memory of Sylvia Brugger and Fred and Diane Schoberg, $50. $20 in memory of Sylvia Brugger by Mike and Deb Smith. Library, $20 in memory of Sylvia Brugger by a friend and family. Library, $20 in memory of Tom Tenney by Judith Schertz. Library, $250 RJAC for When Home Won't Let You Stay refugee program. Fireworks, general public donations at $554. City banners, $6,840 from Carolyn Cleese, the American. And repair of city benches, $3160 by Carolyn Cleese of the American. Motion to accept donations?
I move.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's see, any announcements, Patty, that we need to bring up?
Primaries.
There is, the primary election, August 14th.
Week from today is primary election day. And we don't have any candidates in the city of Wabasha that will be on the primary ballot, but we'll have our state
Correct.
for sure.
Can we get the agendas on the website updated for the planning commission for the date of their next meeting? I can't find
Yes.
it, and I can't remember what it is.
I'll have to ask Wendy when it,
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
when it was either.
All right, motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.